The crimson light of Xylos, a dying star, painted the obsidian chamber in hues of blood and shadow. The air, thick with the scent of ozone and the weight of impending doom, vibrated with the collective anxiety of the Krill Council. Giant, crystalline structures, each representing a member of the ruling elite, pulsed with a nervous energy that echoed the dying heartbeat of their empire. Around them, the holographic projections of their star charts flickered, illustrating the relentless advance of the Gralak, a swarm of predatory spaceborne entities that consumed entire star systems with terrifying efficiency. The Gralak. They had feasted on entire civilizations, and now they were at their doorstep. Elder Zarthus, his crystalline form shimmering with the cold light of authority, regarded the projections with an icy detachment that failed to mask the turmoil within. Their military strategies had failed, their diplomatic efforts had been met with a deafening silence. All hope seemed to be extinguished. The Krill, architects of 1,000 star systems, were on the brink of extinction. "The reports are consistent," intoned the voice of Counselor Lyra, her crystalline structure shifting with agitation. Her projection displayed the jagged, erratic patterns of Gralak incursions, each a death knell echoing across their star systems. "The outer defenses have collapsed. The vanguard fleets are annihilated. Their approach is relentless, unstoppable." A collective murmur of despair rippled through the chamber. For eons, the Krill had ruled the galactic stage, wielding their mastery of energy and manipulation of spacetime. Now, faced with a foe that defied their understanding, their power was turning to dust. Elder Zarthus's gaze swept over the assembled council, seeking a spark of defiance, a hint of ingenuity. But he found only the reflection of his own despair. The Gralak, they had learned, were not interested in diplomacy, in negotiation. They were a hunger, an insatiable void that consumed all in its path. "Are there any further updates from the Outer Rim?" he asked, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. The room remained silent for a heartbeat. Then Counselor Vala, being known for his ruthless pragmatism, spoke. "Nothing of consequence, Elder, only anomalous readings, energy signatures of unknown origin, sporadic and inconsistent. They are of no strategic value." He paused, his crystalline form subtly twisting in what could have been a gesture of disdain. "A waste of precious resources to investigate, in my opinion." Elder Zarthus studied the readings that Val displayed. They painted an unusual picture. These were not the predictable fluctuations of natural phenomena. No, these signatures were erratic, almost intentional. "Run a full spectral analysis," he ordered. "Cross-reference the readings with known energy signatures across the galactic spectrum," and he hesitated. "Investigate the source, immediately." His words carried the weight of a dying empire, the desperate plea for a miracle. The Krill, for all their technological prowess, had become complacent. They had known centuries of peace, and their military might have become a force to be feared. However, the Gralak were a foe unlike any they had encountered before. They devoured not just matter, but also knowledge, rewriting the very laws of physics to suit their voracious hunger. The Krill, with their intricate strategies and elaborate defense systems, were fighting a war for which they were ill-prepared. The investigation into the anomalous energy signatures led to an obscure sector of space, a region that was known for its instability, a maelstrom of gravity wells and unpredictable spatial distortions. The Krill designated a small, expendable scouting vessel, the Void Serpent, to venture into the unknown. The vessel, crewed by veteran Krill warriors, was a single point of hope. Hours later, the Void Serpent transmitted its findings. The energy signature was not natural. It was being generated by a vessel, and what a vessel it was. The visuals showed a ship that defied Krill understanding. It was a symphony of sharp angles, curved lines, and a dark, almost oily sheen. Its design was both elegant and intimidating. The Krill's superior sensor technology was able to pierce its protective shell. It was made of an unknown substance. Its engines emitted pulses of energy the Krill had never seen before. It was an anomaly. The scouting report also revealed something even more bewildering. The vessel was not Krill, nor was it Gralak. Its markings were unknown, its origin uncertain. "They are humans," the lead scientist of the Void Serpent reported. "They are biological life forms like the Krill themselves." "Biological?" Counselor Lyra repeated in disbelief. The Krill, as crystalline beings, viewed biological life with a mixture of pity and contempt. They considered them to be weak and unpredictable. "Yes, they appear to be piloting the vessel as W.L." The report went on to describe the humans' technology with a mixture of awe and bewilderment. Their weapon systems were unlike anything the Krill had seen, capable of generating devastating blasts of energy that would obliterate even the strongest Krill warships. Their shields were equally impressive, deflecting the Krill's own attacks with ease. The initial reaction of the Krill Council was one of skepticism. They had encountered many races throughout their history, and none had possessed the power to challenge the Krill Empire. These humans seemed to defy all expectations. They were not predictable, they were not easily classified, and they were not easily controlled. Elder Zarthus, however, saw something more. He recognized that this was their only hope. These humans, however strange, might be their salvation. He ordered a formal communication with the vessel. It was a decision that would redefine the destiny of the Krill, and perhaps the fate of the galaxy. The Krill sent a message, a carefully crafted plea for assistance, detailing the imminent threat of the Grolak and the dire state of their empire. The message was sent across the vast gulf of space, into the unknown territory the human ship was traveling through. Weeks passed. The Krill Council waited, their crystalline forms radiating tension. Then an answer arrived. The response from the humans was brief, yet remarkably composed. The reply was in their own language, which the Krill technology had to slowly translate. They would come. But there was a condition. The humans, called Terrans, would not act for the Krill. They would act with them if they wanted to survive. With hearts pounding, the Krill Council was immediately convened. The proposal was revolutionary, dangerous, and a sign of absolute desperation. The debate was fierce. Some counselors argued that the humans were too unpredictable, that they might betray them. Others saw it as their only path. In the end, Elder Zarthus made the decisive vote. "We will fight alongside these Terrans. We have nothing to lose and everything to gain." A small delegation of Krill, led by Elder Zarthus himself, was dispatched to the human vessel, designated the Hope's Embrace. The Krill delegation approached the Hope's Embrace with the usual cautious reverence. The vessel was larger than it appeared on the holo displays, a testament to the efficient use of space that the Krill found intriguing. As the delegation moved through the ship, they were greeted by the sights of human life, an experience that was unsettling for the Krill. The ship was a testament to the efficiency of the human mind, a machine designed and run with a degree of precision and grace that was a marvel to the Krill. The Terrans, they discovered, were surprisingly calm. Their faces were impassive, their movements deliberate. They exuded a sense of controlled power that was almost palpable. Their leader, a woman named Eva Rostova, greeted Elder Zarthus and his delegation with a formal, yet warm welcome. Her eyes, the Krill observed, held a depth of understanding that belied her human form. The initial meetings were tense. The Krill, accustomed to their own ways, struggled to understand the Terran perspective. The Terrans, in turn, were baffled by the Krill's rigid structure and their ingrained distrust. Communication was a challenge, a delicate dance of translations and cultural differences. The humans explained their technology, showcasing weapons that could slice through Krill defenses. They also revealed their strategy. They were not merely seeking to repel the Grolak. They had a plan, a long-term plan to disrupt the Grolak's ability to propagate across the galaxy. The Grolak, they are an invasive species. They consume and multiply, a blight on the universe, Rostova stated, her voice calm and resolute. "We believe we have found a weakness, a method to starve them of their fuel." The Krill, intrigued, inquired about the details. "The Grolak feed on dark energy," Rostova explained. "We have developed a device that can siphon that energy, depriving them of the fuel that drives their ravenous advance. We call it the Harvester." The Harvester was a device of unprecedented complexity, capable of manipulating the fundamental forces of the universe. It was a testament to the Terrans' intellect. The Krill, with their vast technological capabilities, were stunned by the Harvester's power. It was the key to their survival. The plan was audacious, bordering on suicidal. The Harvester would be placed on the edge of the Grolak's primary entry point into Krill space, near a dying star, where the Grolak would be drawn to the massive dark energy field. It would then begin to drain the energy, starving the Grolak and weakening their attacks. It was a risky strategy, but the only hope the Krill and the Terrans had. The battle began with a brutal symphony of light and destruction. Krill warships and Terran vessels working in a coordinated fascio. Engaged the vanguard of the Grolak swarm. Krill energy weapons clashed with the ravenous alien ships of the Grolak. The Terran ships, nimble and fast, utilized their advanced weaponry to destroy the Grolak ships, and their shields to stop the Krill war machines from going down. The battlefield was a spectacle of explosions, energy beams, and the relentless advance of the Gralak. The Harvester was launched, a massive undertaking requiring precision and timing. It was a vulnerable target, and the Gralak immediately swarmed towards it. The Krill and Terran fleets fought to protect it, engaging the Gralak in a desperate defense. Rostova remained calm, directing her forces with a cool, collected precision. She had become something of an idol to the Krill, who watched her with a mixture of fear and admiration. The Krill, so used to rigid systems and predictable routines, were amazed at the Terrans' ability to adapt, to improvise. They fought with a fury the Krill had never experienced. They displayed a deep-seated belief in their mission. Against impossible odds, the Harvester was deployed. As it began to drain the dark energy, the Gralak attack faltered, their numbers thinned, their relentless advance slowed. For the first time, hope flickered in the Krill's heart. The battle raged. The Gralak, starved of their fuel, fought with a desperate ferocity. The Krill and Terrans continued to fight, side by side, their forces working in perfect harmony. But the Gralak, in their weakened state, were no match for the combined might of their adversaries. One by one, the Gralak ships were destroyed. The tide began to turn, and the Gralak retreated, their hunger temporarily sated. The combined forces had repelled the invasion. The Krill were saved. The Krill and Terrans celebrated. They had shared the most extreme test any civilization could have. They had faced oblivion and, against all odds, emerged victorious. They had forged a new bond. But as the Krill recovered, they began to analyze the data from the battle. They discovered something unexpected. The Gralak were not their only problem. During the battle, the Krill sensors had picked up a faint energy signature emanating from the dying star where the Harvester had been deployed. It was a signal that was not intended for the Krill or the Gralak. It was a signal that was being emitted from the ruins of an ancient, alien structure buried deep within the heart of the star. The signal was of enormous complexity, a beacon of advanced technology that dwarfed even the capabilities of the Terrans. The signal was a message, and it was ancient. When they presented the data to the Terran scientists, their reaction was one of stunned silence. Rostova's expression turned grim. "This changes everything," she said. Further analysis revealed that the signal was a message, one that had been sent from a civilization that had collapsed millions of years prior. It contained a warning about a cosmic threat far greater than the Gralak. The revelation sent shockwaves through the Krill Council. They had faced extinction, but had now stumbled upon an even larger threat. They had not merely saved themselves. They had found themselves on the precipice of a new, horrifying reality. The Terrans, after careful consideration, shared the message with the Krill. It detailed a threat, a cosmic entity that consumed entire universes, feeding on the fundamental building blocks of reality. It was a threat that was beyond the comprehension of both races, an entity that could destroy everything. The message also offered a solution, a strategy that would require the combined efforts of the Krill and the Terrans. They had to find the source of the entity, they had to understand it, and they had to stop it. It was a task that seemed impossible, a quest that could lead to their ultimate destruction. The Krill, accustomed to long periods of reflection, to strategic planning, began to deliberate. The fear of the Gralak was nothing compared to this new, cosmic horror. They faced a foe that dwarfed even the Gralak in size. But in facing the existential challenge of the Gralak, they had found the strength to fight, to adapt, to survive. They could not abandon the Terrans. They could not abandon the universe. Elder Zarthus spoke, his crystalline form resonating with newfound purpose. "The galaxy faces a new threat," he announced to the Council. "A threat that dwarfs all we have known, but we are not alone, we have the Terrans." The Council erupted in debate. Some called for caution, for a return to the old ways, for a retreat into safety. But the majority, inspired by the Terrans' courage and their unwavering logic, voted to unite and confront the unknown. Rostova was not surprised. She knew that the Krill, for all their formality, were a strong and resilient race. She, too, knew that this new threat was a grave one, but she held no fear. She knew that humanity was ready. Humanity had faced Rials beyond measure, and they had endured. "We have faced the Gralak," she said. "We have worked together, we have survived, we will do so again." She outlined the Terrans' strategy. They would use the Harvester to draw the entity, they would use the Krill's advanced technology to study it, and they would use their combined forces to strike a blow. The plan was a gamble that could mean the end of everything. But they had no choice. They would face the unknown, they would fight for the future. And so the Krill and the Terrans began to prepare for the coming storm. They forged a new alliance, a union of strength, and a bridge between species. They vowed to fight, not just for their own survival, but for the universe itself. Months turned into years. The combined Krill-Terran fleets pushed towards the entity, drawing it towards a remote, uninhabited sector of space. They had to isolate it, to study it, and to strike. They knew that the entity fed on the fabric of reality itself. They used their combined technologies to probe it, to understand its nature. They learned that the entity was not a single being. It was a network, a cosmic web of consciousness. Its motives, its origins were unknown, but its hunger was undeniable. As they delved into the unknown, they uncovered something astonishing. The ancient civilization that sent the message was not destroyed. They were hiding. They had created the entity. This new revelation sent a chill down the spines of both the Krill and the Terrans. How could this be? What could have driven them to create such a threat? Were they not heroes, fighting for their universe? Or were they villains, capable of unspeakable evil? The answer they discovered was both and neither. The ancient civilization, the progenitors, had become consumed with their own power. They were obsessed with control, and they sought to control everything. The entity was their ultimate weapon, a tool to mold the universe to their vision. But they had lost control. The entity had turned against them, consuming them and all that they had created. The Krill and the Terrans realized that they were fighting not just a threat. They were fighting a cosmic tragedy. The time had come to act. The combined fleet of Krill and Terrans moved into position. The Harvester was charged and ready. Rostova, her face as cold as the vacuum of space, gave the order. The battle began. The Krill, with their precision energy weapons, engaged the entity's defenses. The Terrans, with their advanced technology and their fierce determination, launched their attacks. The entity fought back, unleashing its cosmic power. The battleships were torn apart, the fleets scattered, and the very fabric of space threatened to unravel. The Krill and the Terrans fought with a ferocity, not just for survival, but for the future. The Harvester, at the brink of destruction, began to draw the entity toward it, like a beacon. The Krill deployed their most powerful weapons. The Terrans unleashed their most devastating attacks, and the entity, driven by its hunger, moved towards them. It was a battle of unprecedented scale, a struggle for the soul of the universe. The Krill and Terrans, fighting for their survival, understood that this was a moment that would define their civilizations. As the entity reached the Harvester, a blinding flash of energy erupted. The Harvester exploded, its energy unleashed, ripping a hole in the fabric of space. For a moment all was silent. The Krill and Terrans held their breath. Then the entity began to unravel. Its form, once so intimidating, began to disintegrate. It was being consumed by its own power. It was working. The Krill and the Terrans celebrated. They had won. They had defeated the cosmic entity. The universe was safe. But then, as the dust settled, something shifted. In the wake of the battle, a new energy signature was detected. It was faint, but undeniable. It was emanating from a direction far beyond the boundaries of their galaxy. They turned their sensors towards the signal. They studied the projections. They found something extraordinary. It was not a call for war. It was not a threat. It was a beacon, a message, a welcome. The signal was of Terran origin. It was sent millions of years ago. It had been triggered by their actions. The message was simple. Welcome home. The Krill, astonished, turned to Rostova. Her eyes held a mixture of triumph and sorrow. She understood what this meant. The Terrans, they realized, were not just a race of warriors and scientists. They were something more. They were ancient. The Terrans, it turned out, were not just a single species. They were a collective, a vast network of civilizations that had been scattered throughout the universe. They were the firstborn, the ones who had seeded the cosmos with life. And the signal was a reunion. The Krill looked at the humans, and they realized that they had been wrong. They had underestimated them. The humans were not just the saviors of the galaxy, they were the future. Rostova's gaze met Elder Zarthus's. The universe is far bigger than either of us knows, she said, her voice filled with a solemn wonder. Elder Zarthus nodded, his crystalline form shimmering with a newfound respect. The universe will soon be revealed. The Krill and the Terrans, united by shared experience, stood on the precipice of a new era. They had faced the impossible, They had emerged victorious. They had found each other, and now they faced a new beginning. The Terrans had been called home, the universe awaited, and they would be ready. The long journey was just beginning. The galaxy needed them. Hope survived.